Welcome, everyone. This is Dr. Clark from the Center for Weight Loss Success. Today on Losing Weight USA, we're going to talk a little bit about sleep and weight. Weight impacts sleep, sleep impacts weight. We're going to talk about how those kind of go hand in hand, and to hopefully answer any questions that go along with that. But bottom line is that it's really important to treat both, not just one or the other. You need to actually look at treating both. All right, welcome to Losing Weight USA, real-time answers to your weight loss questions, some of the latest updates and research, as well as a little bit of expert advice. Gives you direct access not only to me, but you should be receiving the health tips and recipes via the membership portal. And yes, get into the membership portal. We keep adding more things. That's the best way to find all these different educational questions then. If you have questions during the presentation, just type them into the chat box as we go along. If you think of things once we're all done, just give us a yell here at the Center for Weight Loss Success. The email is success@cfwls.com. Phone number 757-873-1880. All right, so let's dive in here. Again, we're talking about how kind of weight and sleep and weight, how they influence each other. And the bottom line is, yes, they do. All right, so can weight impact your sleep? Absolutely. And can the sleep impact your weight? Absolutely. The direct relationship is weight's effect on sleep apnea. Sleep apnea is incredibly common. Often people notice that, gee, they snore very loudly. It's not actually the snoring, it's generally the obstruction of so it's the silence part of the snoring almost. That is the problem there, is that often people then stop breathing, and that's typically a silent thing. The snoring itself tends to be a sign that, hey, this could be a problem, though. So there are lots of different symptoms that go along with sleep deprivation. And sleep deprivation is bad for lots of reasons, not just weight, but just our overall health, our overall thought process, our happiness, or all these things. But symptoms of sleep deprivation, basically, there's decreased performance and alertness. Yeah, we're tired. Morning headaches common, irritability common, memory and thought process impairment, all very common. It tends to put stress on relationships and overall just a poorer quality of life. Okay. So what really is sleep apnea then? Sleep apnea is a very serious sleep disorder. It affects many people, around 20 million American sleepers. And it's a condition where a person's breathing is continuously interrupted. And if it's interrupted during that sleep, then we never get quality sleep. And breathing can be interrupted for as few as just a few seconds, but actually it can last as long as a minute or so, which then becomes really dangerous. All right, so why does it happen? Again, it's the snoring part of the whole thing. Is snoring occurs because there is air moving across there, but it's across a near obstruction. If there's air moving, that's always a good thing. The issue is then when air stops moving, and that's typically a silent thing. So the word apnea is actually a Greek word. It means without breath. And so in obstructive sleep apnea, the muscles inside and around our throat and our windpipe, they tend to relax as we fall asleep. As they relax, then everything tends to collapse to the inside, and they basically cause a blockage then. So when we're awake and alert and upright, okay, typically the muscles are contracted, and subsequently then everything is held open. And this is from the back of the throat, that uvula that's hanging down the back of your throat, to all the tissue surrounding the airway. And the more overweight we are, the more extra tissue. There tends to be very soft tissue, because fatty tissue, soft, and it tends to move, and it can actually then collapse the airway and subsequently then cause obstruction there. That's what obstructed sleep apnea is. There's actually a true obstruction that's due to the soft tissue surrounding there. And it sometimes can be the tonsils and adenoids, especially with children. They'll often have snoring if they have large adenoids, large tonsils, and subsequently just having the tonsils and adenoids removed is that may actually cure that. All right, and then with sleep apnea, typically as someone with sleep apnea goes to sleep, all the tissue then collapses in there, and it intermittently then is going to obstruct the actual airway. And what tends to happen then is that the brain starts to, hey, we're not getting enough oxygen, and it'll then shoot out messages to try to wake you up. Okay, to wake you up so that you can take that deep breath and get more oxygen flowing in there. And so you get this then arousal, meaning that we are in deep sleep and then we're aroused, deep sleep and then aroused. We're typically going back and forth, and you never get good quality sleep then. Typically people don't remember that kind of short period of time when they're actually, your brain's telling you to rest. So it's kind of, you never get into that deep sleep. What we don't actually remember, not sleeping or having this problem. Sometimes people will literally wake up gasping for air. So in those instances, they may actually then remember that. But a lot of times there may be this kind of partial obstruction, and we're aroused or woken up just a little bit. Sometimes the body will make us turn over. If maybe your wife elbowing you and making you turn over or whatever. But basically then it opens up the airways and we can get airflow again. So the biggest causes of sleep apnea, obstructive sleep apnea, one is overweight. Okay? But it can happen with thinner people too, if they've got a lot of lax tissue around there, or there is also a neurogenic or neurologic sleep apnea as well. And that's a problem with the brain isn't firing and keeping this airway open. But usually, it's much more commonly, it's due to actually weight itself. Males have a higher risk of it. As we age, we get more prone to this developing as well. If you have just a large neck, kind of that bone neck type of thing, very large neck, subsequently you're more likely to have this problem. Or if you have really large tonsils. I mentioned kind of tonsils, adenoids, so that people that have a lot of allergies potentially will have enlarging of the tonsils and adenoids, and they'll be more prone to it. If you have a family history of sleep apnea, then yes, you're more prone to this as well. Or if you truly have an anatomic abnormality in the nasal passages, deviated septum, mentioned allergies, sinus problems, these will all affect and subsequently then make it more likely it will actually have sleep apnea there. Now, again, I want to kind of separate sleep apnea from snoring. Sleep apnea is quiet. Basically, there is no air motion. Therefore, it actually is a very quiet time. It's almost, truly still. Snoring, there's plenty of air motion. It's making lots of noise. Okay, it's just kind of reverberating as the air crosses there. So the good news with snoring is that, hey, if you're actually snoring, you're breathing. Okay. And so subsequently, the big difference between snoring, sleep apnea, but they too can sometimes go together. It's like, gee, you get really loud snoring, and then you get no sound. It's the no sound that's the problem there. Again, kind of the tonsils, adenoids, kind of any swelling back there forever. So sinus infections, things like that. This can all make it worse. All right, now how is it tested? Basically, you get a sleep study, and you can actually go to the sleep lab and get that study. Typically, you have to get insurance approval on that. Sometimes there's a huge rigmarole to get that set up, but that gives you the most accurate information. They'll hook you up to a bunch of monitors. The chest monitors actually follows your breathing, but also monitors throughout, from on your limbs, on your head, and subsequently keeping track of kind of how everything is working while you're actually sleeping there. And it gives very accurate results. Now, they do also have home sleep studies. And sometimes this is an easier thing to get approved from an insurance perspective. And typically it's kind of, they may have This monitor, it's very limited monitors, but maybe a pulse oximeter you wear in your finger, but also subsequently a chest strap that's measuring your actual attempt at breathing, and then subsequently some monitors that are monitoring the oxygen saturation, things like that. These are relatively inexpensive to get done, but often may still need kind of insurance approvals to get these things done as well. Not quite as accurate, but they can give you a very good estimation of what's going on, potentially may lead to doing a formal sleep study at the sleep lab itself, where you go spend the night. Okay, so what's the treatment then? The treatment, well, to some degree, it's weight loss. Okay, weight loss is the treatment, but that's the major treatment. But we can also treat the problem with continuous positive airway pressure. That's what CPAP is, stands for CPAP, CPAP, continuous positive airway pressure. And it basically, the airway pressure is going to put some pressure on the airways from the inside, which then holds the airways open. If you hold the airways open, then it's not going to obstruct. There are other ways to do it with an oral appliance as well that'll pull the tongue forward a little bit. Sometimes just pull your jaw forward a little bit while you're sleeping, and that is all that's needed. And then there's actually surgery to fix the obstruction. And it may be trimming back some of the tissue, maybe as simple as tonsil adenoidectomy, but also trimming back potentially the uvula that's back there, some of the soft tissue that's back there. I've had acquaintances that have had that done. Not a fun procedure to have done. It can take a while to recover. Once they've recovered, though, they're often much happier. Hey, I don't have to wear CPAP anymore. I actually can get good quality sleep. But the biggest thing is weight loss itself. CPAP, again, continuous positive airway pressure. It requires a little machine, and you often see them kind of sitting over your face, and depending on what type, they may actually do more in your nostrils. They've made them a little easier over the technology advanced, in that there's a variety of different ones, and some of them are a little easier to wear for people. People often, though, once they get used to wearing it, and that's a big if, some people never really get used to wearing these things. Once they get used to wearing it, then they find that, hey, I don't want to sleep without it. Okay, because the quality of their sleep is so much better. Sometimes people will just don't adjust to it, and they just don't like it very well at all. All right, mentioned oral appliances. Typically, oral appliances is something you wear in your teeth, but actually kind of pulls your jaw forward a little bit. By pulling the jaw forward a little bit, it kind of opens some of the airway back there. And these can actually work pretty nicely. Often you may get them sized either for a dental or an oral surgeon. May get the size. They're obviously a little mouth guard is a lot easier to travel with than a big machine that you're carrying with you for the CPAP machine. But weight loss is the real cure. And CPAP is really fixing the symptom. Okay, it treats the CPAP, but it's not actually a cure. Weight loss itself, again, typically it's a cure. And with significant weight loss, get a weight loss surgery, then it will often fix this problem. And people will find that often goes away literally within, a month to 2 months of having weight loss surgery. It often may go away. This is a good reason to potentially research doing weight loss surgery as well. Now I'm going to turn it around a little bit. So then, can poor sleep actually impact weight? Kind of, it's a two-way street here. Does weight impact sleep? Does sleep then impact weight? The answer is absolutely. So poor sleep, whether it be sleep apnea or not, can impact weight. And so the sleep debt, okay, basically has to be repaid. And subsequently then it affects your overall health, weight just being one of them. So sleep deprivation, and these studies have been done, years ago, okay, is sleep deprivation. So just literally one poor night's sleep, we find that actually changes people's behavior, and it tends to lead to overeating. Okay, the Mayo Clinic did a study and literally just looking at one day of poor sleep, someone getting less than 5.5 hours of sleep, which for some people that may be a good night's sleep, but literally looking at less than 5.5 hours of sleep leads to eating about 550 more calories the next day on average. That's a huge difference right there. Normal caloric intake, you look at the boxes, little box ingredients, whatever on there, often says a 2,000 calorie diet. Okay, so we're talking a quarter more of kind of extra 500 plus calories just on having poor sleep. And if this is a chronic problem, people will eat more. And it's not that they're looking to eat more, and it's not like they're waking up in the middle of the night and eating more. This is the next day. Okay. And it can happen for a number of reasons. One of the reasons is that with sleep deprivation, there are increased ghrelin levels. Ghrelin, we've mentioned a number of times in the past, but ghrelin is kind of a hunger hormone. It's made by the stomach and proximal intestinal tract. So, and basically it's released when our stomach is empty. And so it tends to make us feel hungry. This is one of the hormones that is decreased significantly after a sleeve gastrectomy. If we remove that part of the stomach that makes a lot of this ghrelin levels go down, hunger is better to control. Okay? And the flip side of the ghrelin is something we've also mentioned in the past too, is leptin. So their increased ghrelin levels makes you more hungry, but there's also decreased leptin levels. So leptin tends to make us feel satisfied. So we have less satisfaction even when we eat. So leptin is a satiety hormone. It's that I'm satisfied, I'm full, I don't need anything more. And their decreased leptin levels increase ghrelin levels. So both of these are working against kind of eating and losing weight. And then also there's increased cortisol levels. Poor sleep is basically chronic stress on your body. And chronic stress on your body will increase cortisol levels. And cortisol by itself will increase insulin levels. We talk about insulin all the time, and that insulin turns on fat storage. So when insulin levels go up, we're much more prone to gaining weight. It turns on fat storage, but it also higher cortisol levels not only lead to higher insulin levels, but it also tends to lead to more carbohydrate cravings, comfort food cravings. So kind of stress, poor sleep, they go hand in hand, but cortisol levels go up with both of them, and it makes it harder to lose weight. And then also decreased growth hormone levels. Decreased growth hormone is released in a pulsatile fashion in our deepest sleep. Okay, and so typically really early in the morning, like 2, 3, 4 in the morning, typically that's when it's mainly released. So if we're getting very poor quality sleep, we never get that growth hormone released the way it should be. And if we kind of have poorer release of growth hormone, we typically have a slower metabolism, and subsequently more tired. And just if we have poor sleep, we're usually tired the next day. If we have increased tiredness, typically we're not as active. So we're kind of sitting more, doing it. So there are lots of things, lots of reasons why sleep deprivation, that's not even with specifically sleep apnea, but just poor sleep of whatever kind, whether it is I just stayed up too late, or whether it's, I slept poorly. If whatever reason, sleep deprivation leads to weight gain. It's a very common phenomenon, and they tend to, they relate to each other. So the bottom line is so what do we do about this? Okay, well, the simple answer is, well, you improve sleep and you lose weight. Those are the two things to work on. Yeah, it sounds simple, right? Well, simple obviously is not easy. But the point there really is you do need to address both things. Ignoring one of those generally is going to impact the results you see with the other. And so subsequently, both things need to be addressed. So what do we do about improving sleep? Okay, and this is some common sense type of things, but often when we're getting ready to bed, sometimes common sense goes out the window. What we really need to do is you want to set a schedule and a routine. And this does make sense, is that, if we go to bed at the same time, we have the same routine, it basically gets your body prepared to sleep. Screen time, or I should say decreasing screen time, can be very important. The blue light that's emitted from kind of these screens, the same screen we're looking at here in our computer, but also your phone, your iPad, your tablet of whatever kind that we're typically utilizing before we go to bed, is typically then it never really allows us to release all the melatonin, and subsequently then we don't sleep as well. It's harder to go to sleep. We don't get as quality sleep then. Third thing is avoid eating before bed. Okay, eating, it sounds like, gee, often we get sleepy after we eat, or drink a glass of milk or whatever it is. But avoid eating before bed because typically then it's not actually good quality sleep then. Outside of also affecting weight too, because we're taking a lot more calories. It is a good idea to have quiet. Now, quiet can also mean white noise, not just kind of all kinds of crazy noise outside, but kind of that white noise there, whether it be the rain, whether it be the waves. And nowadays there are so many different, whether apps on your phone, little white noise machines. And some people just want it quiet, and therefore you need to wear earplugs or something along those lines. So the white noise, it can be very helpful. It should also be dark. Okay, keeping lights on in the bedroom is like, it typically makes it harder to go to sleep. And then finally, try to avoid alcohol. Sometimes people, gee, alcohol makes you relax and go to sleep, but it's typically not quality sleep. If you've had a drink or two too many, then it definitely is not quality sleep. So avoiding alcohol right before you go to bed is a good idea. And also, finally, I guess, if you're having some problems sleeping, you should see a sleep specialist. There are a number of them out there, often just, treat sleep apnea as well, but often they'll treat restless leg syndrome. There are a lot of different things that could lead to poor quality sleep. And it's important to kind of get these things evaluated and treated. And subsequently, then it'll help your overall health tremendously. Good night's sleep, good health. All right, now that's the sleep side. What about the losing weight side? Obviously, losing weight is easier said than done. It's kind of something that it's difficult. There's no way about it. You do have to address kind of what I call the 3 pillars of kind of a weight control program, a health program. Yep, behavior modification, diet, nutrition, and then activity, exercise. You want to address all 3. Addressing, or just utilizing one versus the other, it doesn't work very well. But realize that it's a very rare person that can exercise themselves to weight loss. Typically, diet is still going to trump the other 2. So diet is very important, absolutely, but don't ignore activity, exercise, behavior modification. Those things are very, very important as well. So kind of in losing weight, I was going to quick review what's the core of someone's eating plan. What should it be? Basically, you want to work on 3 things: hydration, good protein sources, vegetable salad stuff. Okay, that's the core of the eating plan right there. Okay, we die without water, we die without protein. Colorful vegetable salad stuff, those are very nutrient dense food. They're typically low calorie foods. And so no one's ever come to me and said, I think I'm gaining weight because I'm eating too much broccoli. Now, it could be the cheese on the broccoli, but it's not the broccoli itself. It's not the lettuce. It's not the spinach. It's not the asparagus. It's not the, those things. Those are the things that typically are going to have fairly low calorie. They're very nutritious for us. That's what we ought to be eating. The other end of the spectrum then is what should we avoid? What we want to avoid are the starches, the crumbly carbohydrates, and you got to be really careful with fruit. Fruit can be the downfall of a weight loss plan, not because fruit is not healthy. Fruit is healthy, but it has a lot of sugar in it. And subsequently, then your body can't tell where a sugar molecule came from. It doesn't know whether it came from an apple, the sugar molecule came from an apple, or it came from a baked potato or pasta or bread. It doesn't know the difference. It's a sugar molecule. So it's treated the same. The starches, going back to that, potato, rice, pasta, bread, and corn. Yeah, that's probably the 5th one there. And then the crumbly carbs, those are the 6 C's: chips, cookies, crackers, cereal, cake, candy. Avoid those. Watch the fruit, you're going to be on a fairly low carbohydrate diet. It's an oversimplification of all that, but it does work. It's very simple. Simple doesn't necessarily mean easy. Two different things. All right. Questions, kind of threw that on together here fairly quickly. Sleep influences weight, weight influences sleep. They're both very important to treat, evaluate, and treat. And if one's a problem, it makes it harder for the other one too. So we really need to address both really at the same time. All right, if you think of questions, you know where to find us here at Center for Weight Loss Success. Again, the email success@cfws.com. Phone number 757-873-1880. Get into that membership site. I harp on this all the time. We keep adding more things to them. The weight loss tips as well as weekly recipes are in there. Tune in each Tuesday, 12:15 for the next webinar. Watch your email for the invite and link. And remember, it's your life. Make it a healthy one. Have a good day, everyone. Take care.